And then we'll do the prayers. And then seeing what time it is, maybe we'll get into the book. Okay. Okay. So, Buddhists say that one should use reason to understand the Dharma. When I use my Western reason to contemplate karma, it seems to me that ethical cause and effect is much more diffuse than the Dharma suggests. For example, Western reason says that killing a mosquito is innocuous. I guess the reason for killing a mosquito is innocuous is because it's smaller than us. Okay, which would mean that some of the people who are big killing me would be also innocuous because I'm smaller. That kind of reasoning, okay. I think in Buddhist reasoning, you would say a mosquito has consciousness. It has the potential to become a Buddha, not in that body, but in a future life. But a mosquito values its life with the same intensity that we value our lives. Don't you think? Yeah? I mean, when you see any kind of bug, if you push it or do something, it cringes in fear. It doesn't want to die. It wants to be safe. So mosquito may be smaller. It may, itch a little while if it bites us, but it's just trying to be happy and survive the same way we are. So that's the kind of way that Buddhism would look at it. Okay? We shouldn't look at karma and its effects as too rigid, like, okay, you hit me this life, therefore next life I have to hit you. No, it's not like that. Yeah, it's like, okay, somebody damages somebody in one life, it isn't necessarily the person they damage that, harms them back in the future. But they, unless they purify, they may receive some harm. It could be from some other being, it could be from an illness or an accident or whatever, okay? So it isn't tit for tat, yeah? Okay. What category does the critical mind that judges others' actions fall under? Who has that mind? Really? Wow. I think that mind's a big problem, isn't it? It's not a happy mind. It's a mind that, kind of delights in putting other people down. The implicit effect from that is I'm better than them. Yeah, so when we don't feel so good about ourselves or we're competing with somebody else, the best way to make us feel good is to squish a tomato, put somebody else down. Does that make any sense at all? Does it really make you feel better to put somebody else down? Initially you go, okay, we're in competition, they're better than me, but I don't want to actually rejoice in them being better than me in that condition, so I'm just going to put them down and criticize them. Yeah, is that kind of what's going on? Yeah. So, when we have a critical, judgmental mind like that, are we happy? Yeah. Are you happy when you sit there and go over and over and over again, oh, this person's so stupid, and that one, is so incompetent, and this one's so uncooperative, and me? I don't do any of those kind of things. Why do we notice it in other people? Because we're quite familiar with it in ourselves, but we don't want to actually acknowledge that. Yeah. So, I'm not answering the question directly and taking a while to get around to it, because this kind of mind it's really quite miserable, makes us very unhappy. It wastes an incredible amount of time. Yeah. And then, we start planning about how we're going to embarrass the other person, or what we're going to do to show we're better, or, something like that. So when you consider that we worked very hard in previous lives to create the causes for precious human life this time, and then we use our time to just kind of criticize other people mentally. And, and then of course it comes out of our mouth when the appropriate circumstance arises. Yeah. To think that we use our precious human life and all of its potential in that way, it's kind of sad, don't you think? Not kind of sad, it is sad. And so, when we catch ourselves thinking like that, to, press the pause button and say, that way of thinking is useless. It is, isn't it? It doesn't change anything. Yeah, if we're competing with somebody, criticizing them in our mind or criticizing them to somebody else, that doesn't change anything. It doesn't give us whatever the other person has that we want. It leaves us just as impoverished as before, but now with the complement of, some negative karma for going round and around and around. So what does that fall under? Yeah, well, it's a mental action. Which one does it closely resemble? Malice, isn't it? Yeah. So, the malice isn't, oh, I want to go slug somebody, but, the malice is, yeah, well, I don't want to criticize them outside, because unless it's the right opportunity, then I will. Because if I criticize them when it's not appropriate, then it doesn't look good for me, and I'm too attached for my reputation to risk that. Yeah, but when I can, I'll slip in a snide remark about somebody else. Yeah, but then, do we feel good about it afterwards? No. Okay, so it's true confession time. I do this, and my number one object of criticizing is, no, I don't criticize the Buddha Hall. I love the Buddha Hall. What am I criticizing? The contractors. Yeah, don't get me started on those contractors. Oh boy. They should do this and they should do that, and then they did this and they did that. I can't believe. Yeah. Yeah, but it doesn't do any good. Yeah. They still don't do what I want them to do. Even though I spend a lot of time complaining, then I slough it off and I ask her to please tell them something. Yeah, and yesterday I asked the carpet guy to actually nudge them a little bit with regard to the insulation, because it's blocking his work too. Yeah, so I get other people involved because, contractors, when you're a woman, contractors don't know what to do with you. Yeah, well, except put you in the kitchen. But, it's a man's field, and we're out there every day looking at what's going on. I mean, my cabin where I live, I don't have to strain my neck to see the construction site. It's right there. And so very easy to fall into this kind of mind, and feel justified. And I can I can give you the receipts of what they've charged us to prove why, I have lots of proof, and I have other people who agree with me. Yeah, so I must be right. Yeah, I must be better. Well, if I were really better, I could go out there and fix the septic system. If I were really better, I would stop the fire alarm from going off when there's no fire. If I were really better, I could go in there and fix and put the insulation in myself. So, it doesn't make any sense to put them down because we're quite dependent on them to do their work. Yeah, because they know how to do it better than I do. Yeah, unless, yeah. Should we go do the installation this weekend?
1:30 today.
Yeah, 1:30, yeah. The usual team, you, me, and Venerable Jigme. Yeah. Oh, and Venerable Semke, she wants to do it too. Yeah. Yeah, we'll all go up in the attic and put in the insulation. We'll finally get it done. Yeah, then we don't have to sit there and mentally criticize these so often for not doing it because it will be done. Do you see how completely stupid that is? Yeah. So you probably have your own version of it for whatever it is that peeves you. Let me tell you, if you ever do construction, I empathize. Okay. If someone gambles away his fortune, stocks, stocks and other thing, is this an immediate effect of craving or attachment to money, or could the cause be created in previous lives too? It's hard to say because each person's situation is different. Some people gamble and some people play the stock market. That's another form of gambling, isn't it? Yeah. One of my friends who has 2 kids told me her husband kind of used most of their savings playing the stock market because it was like gambling and stock market went down. Okay, so what's the cause of that? It could be a lot of craving in this life for money, and so looking for fast ways to make a lot of money, which generally don't work. That's not a good strategy. Yeah, better to rob a bank. Yeah, and then the federal government will house you for the next 25 years. 3 hots and a cot, and you don't have to work again. So, yeah, and then our prison project will send you Dharma materials. Yeah. So, why people gamble? There's probably a lot of different reasons. Some people maybe for the excitement, the fun of it. Some people, that's their social life. Yeah, I have one friend who works, one of the inmates that I wrote with when he got released, he started working in Vegas at a casino. And he was telling me they have regular customers who live in Vegas itself who regularly come in to, play the roulette, play with the one-armed bandits and so on. So, it could be thrill, it could be boredom, it could be attachment to money. It's hard to say in any individual thing. As for karma, there could be a karmic tendency, a habitual habit of sorts, of gambling and being kind of risky with investments and, kind of a way of thinking that the money's going to fall from the trees. Yeah. Okay. Then my next note, we'll get around to the teachings, is to remind you that there's the opportunity to take the Bodhisattva, aspiring bodhicitta, and or engaging bodhicitta on Monday at 11. Okay, and the people in the who are doing the afternoon Q&A at 2 o'clock will talk more about that. Okay, let's start with the homage to the Buddha, taking refuge, generating bodhicitta. Yeah, and in the visualization, when we're thinking of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas in front of us, and all sentient beings around us, include all the people that you like to mentally criticize. And some of them are strangers too. You can just sit anywhere in public and criticize this person and that, and, comment on the way they look and the way they walk and, so on. So put all those people around you. Remember that they're sentient beings just like you who want happiness and not suffering. And, if you can lead them and introduce them to the Buddha's teachings, I mean, how wonderful that would be for them. And quite wonderful. Okay, so include them in the visualization.
The teacher endowed, transcendent destroyer, one that's gone, foe destroyer, completely and fully awakened one, perfect in knowledge and good conduct, one gone to bliss, knower of the world's supreme guide, beings to be tamed. Teacher of gods and humans, you, the Buddha endowed, transcendent destroyer, glorious conqueror, Shakyamuni, I prostrate, make offerings and go for refuge. When, O supreme among humans, you were born on this earth, you paced 7 strides and said, I am supreme in this world. To you, more wise than I bow. With your body's form supremely fine, wisdom motion like a golden mountain, fame that blazes in the 3 worlds, winner of the best, supreme guide, to you I bow. With the supreme signs, face like the spotless moon, color like gold, to you I bow. You are immaculate, the 3 worlds are not, incomparable, wise one, to you I bow. Great, compassionate protector, all-knowing teacher, field of merit and good qualities, vast as an ocean, to the Tathagata I bow. Through purity, freeing from attachment, through virtue, freeing from the lower realms. Unique, supreme, ultimate reality, to the Dharma that is peace I bow. Having freed themselves, showing the path to freedom too, well established in the trainings. The holy field, endowed with good qualities, to the Sangha I bow. Do not commit any non-virtuous actions, perform only perfect virtuous actions. Subdue your mind completely, this is the teaching of the Buddha. A star, a mirage, a flame of a lamp, an illusion, a drop of dew, a bubble. A dream, a flash of lightning, a cloud, see conditioned things as such. Through this merit may sentient beings attain the state of all-seeing, subdue the false, and be delivered from the ocean of cyclic existence perturbed by the waves of aging, sickness, and death. This ground anointed with perfume, flowers strewn among Meru, 4 lands, sun and moon, imagine of your truth body, from billowing clouds of your wisdom and love, let fall the rain of the profound and extensive Dharma, in whatever form is suitable for subduing sentient beings. Iram Guru Ratna Mandalakam Niryatayami.
I take refuge until I have awakened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha, by the merit I create by listening to the Dharma. I will attain Buddhahood in order to benefit all sentient beings. I take refuge until I have awakened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha, by the merit I create by listening to the Dharma. I will attain Buddhahood in order to benefit all sentient beings. I take refuge until I have awakened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha, by the merit I create by listening to the Dharma. I will attain Buddhahood in order to benefit all sentient beings. Let's cultivate our motivation. So behind the critical, judgmental mind lies our ignorance of grasping an independent self, our ignorance of karma, and our ignorance that does not see how dependent we are, how much we need other living beings simply to stay alive, not to mention to do things that we like, to be creative, and so on. that our lives are very deeply embedded with those of other living beings. So to care just about our own welfare doesn't make sense, because when we neglect others, we're neglecting the people who help keep us alive and upon whom we are dependent for everything. We might not think so much about that dependence. For example, how dependent we are on the people who make the roads so that we can drive to get here. Dependent on the people who fix the downed electric wires during a storm so that we can have heat and light. The people, mostly migrants, who work picking our vegetables and our fruit and harvesting grains, planting things, working in construction, taking care of us when we are old, stocking the supermarket shelves. All these people, their work is really crucial for society to function. And yet we so often just block them out of any awareness on our part of their kindness and how much we depend on them. Just spend a few minutes and think about these people. Most of them strangers we don't know, but they have their own life experience. They want to be happy and safe, just like we do. And so develop a sense of empathy for them. And when you think of how much you've benefited from the Buddhist teachings, wouldn't it be wonderful if they could benefit in the same way from the teachings? And if you want to help them to do that, then we have to work on our own practice first. And as we work on our practice, purify, create merit, meditate, and understand the teachings more, we become more capable of being of greater benefit to others. But the best way to benefit is to have all the capabilities of a fully enlightened one. And so we generate that aspiration, motivated by great compassion for living beings, all of them. We generate that aspiration to become a Buddha ourselves. So to generate that bodhicitta motivation. Okay. It's true, isn't it? How dependent we are on others. Anybody get here all by yourself? Yeah? No vehicles? Yeah, some of you just say, yeah, I live here. Well, who built the place where you're staying? Yeah. Okay. So, this is kind of one of the American myths, that we are, independent people. And this whole thing of pick yourself up by your own bootstraps, as if you're improving yourself does not depend on other people. But whatever skill we develop to improve ourselves, why do we do it? Yeah, it's because it will affect other people. Yeah, and of course for our own selfish reasons, but how does our own ego get enriched? It's through other people thinking that we're great. Yeah, if you were on a desert island, nobody else is going to be around except, maybe a few fish and some snakes and, a few scorpions. And they're going to think you're great. And then your ego's really going to be on top of the whole show. Yeah. So, when you look, this thing to be recognized, I want to be recognized and appreciated. Yeah, that in itself shows how dependent we are on other living people. Yeah, on other beings. And to recognize that common shared humanity, that we may look different, we may speak different languages, have different skills and so on, but we all are the same, wanting happiness, not suffering, and depending on each other. Mm-hmm. Okay, so I know for myself personally, thinking about this really, really changed my attitude, and especially thinking about how I depended on my parents when I was quite young. And despite all the things that were going on in their lives, they managed to raise 3 kids. Yeah, we all turned out reasonably well, even though they have question marks about me. Yeah, I'm like, you became a what? Yeah. But when I really thought about their kindness, wow, my whole attitude changed. And then the conflicts that I had with them just faded into the background. They weren't so big when I had that feeling of appreciation for what they did. Yeah. And so, also with people we don't get along with. Yeah. We depend on them and they help us. Yeah. What? They helped me? No, they harmed me. They did this. They talked behind my back. They ruined my reputation. They broke up my relationship. They got the promotion, not me. Yeah, we criticize them. But without these people, how are we going to notice what our buttons are and what our afflictions are? Yeah, because especially the afflictions of anger, revenge, grudge holding, jealousy, arrogance, these kind of afflictions play out in terms of the people that we don't get along with or who harm us. And without the Buddha's teachings pointing out that these were afflictions, and without these people stimulating those afflictions so that we can see very clearly the misconceptions and harmful emotions in our own mind, then how could we ever progress on the path? Yeah, these people are some of the people who really help us. Now, of course, yes, it would be so much nicer if they helped us by doing what we want and praising us and being very cooperative. But we wouldn't notice our buttons and our defensiveness and our, all these kind of lovely attitudes inside of ourselves. We wouldn't notice them unless there were these people. So in that way, we have to appreciate them and say, thank you very much for pointing out to me the afflictions in my own mind. Yeah, because it's not like we can hang on to those afflictions and become Buddhas. It doesn't work like that. So these people are actually instrumental to us practicing the path. Yeah, we need them. Yeah. Do you believe me? Or, well, it's nice when you get along with everybody in this room, then it's easy to believe. But as soon as you think of one person who you don't like, that person's got to change. Yeah. Okay. So let's go in. We'll start with verse 29. It's on page 78 of the book, if people want to follow along. Okay, so last night I just mentioned the structure of the verses in this section, that it talks about a problem we have, and then it says that it's the wheel of sharp weapons returning upon us because we harmed others previously, either earlier this life or in a previous life. And then it tells us the kind of actions that we may have done that has brought the result that we're experiencing that we don't like. Okay, so when I delight in afflictions and am greatly distracted, anybody suffer from that? Yeah. We delight in afflictions, we're distracted by our craving, distracted by our jealousy and our anger. Okay, so it is the weapon of destructive karma turning upon me. Yeah, what did I do? For not contemplating impermanence and the defects of cyclic existence. From now on, I will increase my disenchantment with cyclic existence. So why are we distracted? Yeah, well, ego gets something out of it, but we are not at that point when we're just, delighting in our afflictions and messing around in our mind with them or messing around with other people in an afflicted way. We aren't thinking about impermanence. We aren't thinking about the defects of samsara. We're somehow just caught in the present story that our mind is making up. Okay? So the stories our mind makes up, sometimes it's, this person is so fantastic, yeah, and I always want to be with them. Or this person is so awful, yeah, that I want to get away from them. Those are just general categories, okay? But if we thought about impermanence, and not just the impermanence of the present situation, because when we're in conflict with somebody, that's an impermanent situation. Okay, what is today, the 24th of May? Okay, May 24th, 2024. Who were you complaining about? Who were you in conflict with? Who were you attached to? Who were you jealous of or arrogant over? Can you even remember? Yeah, but almost every day our afflictions frolic around in our mind like that. Yeah, and we don't see how transient they are. We get completely hooked and involved in them. And yet 1 year later, we can't even remember what the situation was that I was either so enchanted with or so fed up with. Yeah. So seeing that how swiftly these situations arise and depart, why do we put so much of our energy into it? Okay. So when we really think about impermanence in this way, then it helps us to let go of these kind of distractions. You're not so sure. Well, how about we go from impermanence to death? Yeah, whatever your distractions are that you're delighting in now, do you want to be thinking about them when you die? Yeah, the person that you've been holding a grudge against for years, do you want to, on your deathbed, be thinking about how much you can't stand them? Yeah, if you don't want to be thinking like that about someone when you die, why do we waste our time thinking about them when we're alive? Yeah. Do we want to, die thinking, oh, I made so much money, I was so famous, I was president of what? Who knows? But just you're president, okay? Yeah. When I started the Abbey, I was the only resident, but my dad was so happy because I was finally the CEO of something. Yeah. Oh, my daughter's a CEO, wow. Yeah, of 2 cats. Yeah. But, what are we craving for? And does it matter when you die? Yeah, when I die, I'm going to have the thought of my life was so worthwhile. I was CEO with 2 cats. Yeah. And somebody's going to say, well, no, 22 monastics. Oy vey. The cats were easier. Yeah. No, I'm joking, kind of. Yeah, but what kind of mind do we want to die with? Yeah. And if our present mind isn't one that we want to have at the time we die, then let's not cultivate and habituate ourselves with that kind of attitude. Yeah, because it's not going to bring us any joy now or in the future. Okay. And in addition, when we're distracted by our afflictions, then, physical negativities happen, verbal negativities happen. Yeah, we create more negative karma. Okay. So I wasn't going to read from this, but let's see. Oh, here's a nice paragraph. Many people avoid hearing teachings and meditating on impermanence and the faults of cyclic existence. Yeah, why? Impermanence? I'm going to lose everything, but I've worked so hard to get everything, I don't want to think about losing it. I'm going to get old. I'm going to become incapacitated if I live that long. I don't want to think about any of that. That's depressing. I want to think about light and love and bliss. Okay, so some people would rather meditate on love and compassion. That's until they really understand what love and compassion mean. When you don't understand, then it's so nice to meditate on love and compassion. I love everybody. Yeah, as long as they stay away and don't bug me. Then it's very easy to love them. Yeah, but the people who we are close to are the people we get the most upset with. Yeah, it's true, isn't it? Yeah, are you upset with somebody in Sudan? Yeah. Do you know anybody there? No. Yeah. Does it matter that they're hungry? Meh. Does it matter that I didn't get my coffee this morning? Yes. I'm deprived. Oh, poor you. Oh, yeah, these nuns, they suffer so much from coffee deprivation. Yeah, and when they went to, should I tell them what you did? Oh boy. Oh boy, yeah. Yeah, when they went to Taiwan last year to take the full ordination, when they were at the airport and the abbess wasn't anywhere around, and Starbucks was right there, guess what they did? Oh. Okay. So I'm not talking bad about them. Yeah. Just relating facts. Yeah. And it's not alternative facts. It's true, isn't it? Yeah, true. No.
It wasn't Starbucks, it was a better coffee place.
Okay. Okay. So, yeah, they would rather meditate on love and compassion and coffee, which makes them feel good. They prefer to meditate on Chenrezig or another deity, doing a beautiful visualization and reciting mantras. Yeah, because then you don't need to think about your faults. It's just, oh, Mani Padme Hum, I'm emanating light out to the whole world. Yeah, and they all give me offerings. A banana that's going off, 2 apples, and some blue thing. What? It's a mini Cliff Bar. Oh. And it's blue. Oh, it must be very nutritious. Okay. So we'd rather do meditations that make us feel good. Some people first turn their energy to Dzogchen or Mahamudra meditation because they are said to lead to the highest meditative states. Our self-centeredness prefers to do meditations that leave us feeling light and blissful and better than everybody else, because we're meditating on the highest thing. Yeah. Of course, we don't understand it, but that doesn't matter. We can still say we're meditating. Sochan Mahamoja, highest yoga tantra. Woo! Yeah. Okay. But those same people, you say, stop drinking and drugging, stop lying, stop sleeping around. Oh, no, you're just being prudish. Don't tell me that. Okay. So this is why we have to start out with the foundation practices, because those ones are the ones that often are the most difficult for us. Yeah, because they pertain quite directly to our everyday behavior. Yeah. Okay. Okay, so this thing of meditating on impermanence and death and the defects of cyclic existence, personally speaking, I find it very grounding and very sobering, okay? When my mind is getting all excited, not about coffee, but, try sugar. The mind gets excited about someone or something or whatever. If I just think about impermanence and death, if I think about the defects of samsara, the attachment goes way down, quite quickly, actually. The mind feels quite sober, not depressed, but a soberness that comes from being realistic about what our situation in samsara is. And it's not pretty. Yeah, it's not pretty at all. But it really cuts all that fluffy distraction and grudge holding and so on. Okay. So from now on, I will increase my disenchantment with cyclic existence. So when you're distracted, that's what we need to do. Yeah. Okay, verse 30. When I continue to regress despite all my efforts, it is the wheel of destructive karma turning upon me. For defying karma and the laws of cause and effect, from now on, I will strive to accumulate merit. Okay, so sometimes we find ourselves in situations that no matter how much we try to improve them, it doesn't get anywhere, like working with contractors. Okay, you get one thing done, but then the next thing breaks, and then that thing doesn't get done, and so on. It gives you for people who love to complain, it gives you an endless, field to complain with, okay? So I have my graduate degree in complaining. Yeah, very familiar with it. Yeah, if you ever need a complaint, just let me know. I will give you one for anybody doing anything. Yeah? Okay. So we continue to regress. We have a habit that we're trying to break, to not, continue doing. And we kind of try, but we don't seem to get anywhere. Or maybe we have good aspirations. We're trying to, further our education or further our, get in shape physically, whatever it is. And we try, but we just don't seem to be making progress. Yeah. So, what's the problem? Is we haven't accumulated merit. Now you're going to say, well, what does merit have to do with it? Okay, Yeah, why do I need merit? What the heck is merit anyway? Yeah, can I get it at Walmart's? You know, are the tariffs going to make it more expensive? Merit is basically good karma. It means virtue, yeah. And it's nothing that you can purchase. It's something that we ourselves have to create. So purifying negativities, creating merit, it's like eating, sleeping, and going to the bathroom. We're the ones who have to do it. You can't hire anybody else to do it for you. It would be nice, wouldn't it? Yeah, like when you're exhausted, you know, give somebody else a nickel or a dime and ask them to sleep some more so that you feel well rested. That would be great. Okay, but we can't do that. Yeah. So the merit that comes from having virtuous motivations, doing actions motivated by virtuous motivations, you know, this is something that we have to do. And it acts as the basis for success in other endeavors. Yeah. Now, how to explain that? It's something that's quite difficult to explain, but it's a feeling within you, you know, when you've done some purification and collecting, you know, creation of merit. It's more of a feeling of confidence, of being able to handle different situations. Yeah. And so then that gives us energy to go ahead with things that we previously had thought were difficult, or things that we just tried and we weren't successful, so we threw up our hands after 5 minutes and, you know, stopped. Okay. So read a little bit from here. Sometimes we find ourselves in situations that get worse no matter what we do. Yeah, we work hard to run a business but go bankrupt. Yeah, we know some people who have done that. Yeah, don't we? They're quite famous. Yeah, and you can do open casinos with them and go bankrupt multiple times. Okay. We work hard to run a business, but go bankrupt. We save our money for retirement, and then the stock market falls. People experience that too. Despite our efforts, our personal growth doesn't coincide with that of the people we love. Okay, they improve quicker than we do. Okay, they grow in one direction, I grow in another direction. Treasured relationships disintegrate. We do not get the recognition we think we earned or the love we believe we deserve. Spiritually, we start to make some progress, and then laziness overwhelms us, and we abandon our daily meditation practice because we're not getting anywhere. We're just reciting stuff on automatic, so why do it? Better I catch up on my sleep. You know? Or our minds become foggy and we can't concentrate. Yeah. Anybody experience any of these things? Yeah. So, yeah. When this happens, instead of lamenting, yeah, no, poor me, instead of throwing a pity party, recognize that in the past we did not take the law of karma and effects seriously. Yeah, so we may have understood intellectually how it works, but we never made that belief part of how we live as a human being. And Yeah, and challenging some of our old habits and our old beliefs. Yeah, so we haven't done any of that. We've just kind of plodded along. Yeah, so this brings the karmic result of, trying to make progress but not getting anywhere. It just seems like we get stuck. Yeah, so the remedy is, the last sentence, from now on I will strive to accumulate merit, based on having conviction in the laws of karma and its effects, and on the usefulness of purifying negativities and creating virtue. Yeah. Does anybody have doubts about, you're not interested in purifying negativity? It can be a hard thing. I mean, I remember my first meditation course, they started talking about purifying negativity and creating merit. And I'm going, huh? What's that about? Doing virtuous actions. Is that related to, what was it that Martin Luther, when you buy things, what was it? He protested against how Protestant started buying, what are they called? Things that you buy at the church so you give money. Not alms, I think it starts with an I. Anyway, buying your holiness, okay? So, how do you make up for something? Well, you just give a big donation, or you buy these things that the Catholic Church was giving out in the, 14th century. Yeah, this is what the Protestant Revolution was about, one of the breaks in Christianity. I can't remember the name of it. What? Indulgences, that's it. Yeah, you buy indulgences. And then that means that you've purified your karma. So that's what I thought of when I heard Buddhist teachers talking about purification and creation of merit by an indulgence, kind of, yeah, that's what you do. You buy purity. That didn't sound right, okay? And it's not right. That's not at all what Buddhism is talking about, okay? When we talk about purification, we're talking about a way of forgiving ourselves, a way of eliminating obstacles that we have in our lives and in our practice. Yeah. When we feel bad about ourselves, anybody here have things they regret in their life? Yeah. Okay, we all have things we regret in our life. When we just sit there and just kind of feel like, oh, I'm such a lousy person because I did that, that doesn't help us progress spiritually. In fact, it's an extra burden that prevents ourselves from progressing spiritually. Because the more we put ourselves down, the more we discourage ourselves. Okay, the more we feel guilty, the more the guilt immobilizes us. Yeah. So purification practices involve just being honest with ourselves, being honest with others, not hiding something under the rug, but bringing it out in the open. And when we do that, we realize that it's usually not as bad as we've been hating ourselves for doing. Okay? And then when we do purification practice, imagining the Buddha and light coming from the Buddha, purifying those negativities, then we feel lighter psychologically. Yeah. And this happens also for people who were abused. Now you might say, But when you're abused, it's the other person who did the harmful action, not me. Yeah, that's true. But often, if you've been abused, you hold a grudge. Yeah, and you hold onto some kind of anger. Yeah, and that, if you want to progress spiritually, you have to let go of, because that just keeps you trapped in, we make ourselves into victims. Yeah, so learning to release that anger, to own it, release it, instead of getting down on ourselves. Okay, so that kind of purification practice is psychologically very, very important. And it renews our energy, because we're not spending so much time psychologically repressing and denying things that we did. It takes a lot of energy to keep that bottle top on, doesn't it? Yeah. It's much easier. Open the bottle, let the stuff come out. The wind, you do purification, the wind blows it away, and you're okay, Okay. And then, so that's purification. Then creation of merit is, really understanding cause and effect and what creates virtue and what doesn't, and putting our life energies in the direction of creating virtue. Yeah. Now, somebody might ask, well, how does, putting offerings on the shrine, on the altar, create virtue? Isn't that like buying indulgences? No, it's different, because you're not doing it with the motivation of, I want to look good and I want an easy way out instead of really dealing with my issues. You make the offerings because you have respect for the qualities of the Buddha, Dharma, Sangha. And when we have respect for the qualities of others, our mind feels good. Yeah. Because when we respect the qualities of the Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, then it opens the door for us to generate those same qualities. If we respect certain qualities, we will put our energy into developing them. And we also will see a good role model for those who have developed those qualities. Yeah. So it's creating merit. And what creates the merit isn't how many apples and bananas and blue things that they say are nutritious you offer. It's not that. It's, with the kind of respect and faith that comes from knowledge, not blind faith. When we offer with that kind of mind, and we really take delight in giving, then our own heart feels quite happy. We're connecting with our role models. We're connecting with the Buddha that we want to become, the Sangha that we want to become. Okay? Okay. So that's that verse. Purification, creation of merit. Yeah, and our teachers really recommend that we do a lot of that, especially at the beginning of our practice, but actually all during our practice. Yeah, and it's very powerful. These practices are quite powerful. Okay, verse 31. Yeah, this is the start of chapter 6, which is entitled, Don't Create Problems for Yourself. Yeah, actually, we create all of our problems we create for ourselves through our negative karma. It's not other people who are creating our problems. It's we through the way we've behaved in the past, the way we've thought, the way we've spoken. We've created the causes for these difficulties. Okay, verse 31. When all the religious rituals I perform go amiss, it is the weapon of destructive karma returning upon me, for investing hope and expectations in forces of darkness. From now on, I will turn away from forces of darkness. Okay, so I'm going to read a little bit from this. Yeah, forces of darkness. I think the ultimate force of darkness are our own afflictions. Yeah, but it could manifest in terms of harms experienced by different living beings. Okay. So does that mean we should go around being afraid of forces of darkness? Yeah, that's a good one. It's like, if you can see somebody, well, they can't harm me so much. But a force of darkness, what in the world is that? It could be anything. So, wow, let's get paranoid. Yeah? No, this isn't what it's talking about. Okay. So many people do religious rituals for health, long life, or wealth. Or they request the Sangha to do these rituals for them. Well, some people do these rituals with a Dharma motivation, because meditators do need a long life to have more time to practice, and a monastery needs funds to build something, everything. Other people do these rituals with worldly motivations for the happiness of only this life. Yeah. And so you find people going to the temple or even doing requesting rituals or even themselves. One of the biggest things people do, the requests we get, is when somebody is sick or when somebody dies. Please make prayers for this person. I remember when my grandma died, this was years ago, I was in India at the time, and I went to request Genlam Rinpa to please make prayers for my grandma. And he turned around to me and he said, "You're the one who has the stronger karmic connection with her. Yeah, it'll be better if you make the prayers." Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, I was just, I made an offering. I thought, well, he has more realizations than I do. His prayers will be stronger. But he was pointing out to me that, when we have karmic connections this life with somebody, if we can make positive prayers for them, that may, we shouldn't discount that value. Yeah. And so often, so we make offerings, we create virtue, we recite prayers, we do prostrations, we make offerings, we do practices, and then we dedicate for people who are sick or people who have passed away. In Asia, many people request pujas for their business, so that their business will be successful. They make offerings and request that their son or daughter marry a certain kind of person. What else? They request good health for their family. So, it's fine to make offerings and create merit and dedicate it like this. But here it's saying, the verse says, when all the religious rituals I perform go amiss, what, is it? For we've invested hope and expectations in forces of darkness. So maybe we've, what have we done? We've gone to seances, we've invoked different spirits of different kinds, to ask them for blessings or help. And there, from a Buddhist viewpoint, there are living beings who are spirits. Some of them have certain powers, but they are not Buddhas, and so they cannot be trusted the same way as Arya Bodhisattvas and Buddhas can be trusted, because they have very gross defilements just like us. Yeah. And so it's better not to get involved with this kind of thing, because these beings are not always consistent. Yeah. Some of them we make offerings to. There's lots of practices where you make an offering at the beginning of your practice and at the end to different spirits or to Dharma protectors, and that's fine, to do it with an attitude of kindness. But we have to realize that the real cause of our problems is inside here, and if we really want to change, we have to deal with what's inside here instead of buying indulgences, making offerings to this or that. Yeah. Yeah. So in the West, in Asian societies, these spirits are very real in people's lives. Yeah. And in the West, maybe not so much, although, there's tarot cards and seances and all sorts of stuff like that, which people really gravitate towards. So I remember very early on, they were having some kind of New Age fair in Spokane, I think it was, and they invited us to come and have a booth. And so Venerable Chuni and I went. Did you go then? No. Okay, so we went, and we had our little Buddhist thing with free distribution booklets and things like that. And on either side of us, there were people telling fortunes. Yeah. So the people in the, coming to this big, thing, they would stop at this fortune teller, yeah, pay some money, get their fortune told. And what's so nice about having your fortune told? Who's it all about? Me! Me! What's going to happen to me? Ooh, this is exciting. So, this fortune teller would, say something. Then they would walk past us. We have free distribution, but they paid to the fortune teller. Just walk right past, go to the next fortune teller on the other side and get their fortune told again, paying that one. Okay? And so Venerable Chuni and I were sitting there going like, what's happening? This is people have all the wrong kind of but when you look at it, okay, I have no psychic abilities, but I can tell you something that will happen within the next year to you. You will get sick. Yeah? Do you get sick at least once a year? Yeah, see, I told your fortune. I must have special abilities. Oh, no, you know that already. I don't need to tell you. But if somebody else tells you you're going to get sick next year, then it's like, oh no, oh dear, what can I do to avoid it? Yeah. And then you make offerings to some of these kind of spirits that aren't so compassionate or aren't so clear about their motivation. Okay. So relying on forces of darkness has several meanings. It may mean relying on worldly spirits for success instead of relying on the 3 jewels. Okay, here, instead of observing the law of cause of karma and its effects, people propitiate worldly spirits, and they will spend a lot of money buying things to propitiate these worldly spirits. Yeah, make an offering to somebody practicing the Dharma, making offering to people who are hungry, no, but buying huge things for spirits, yes. If you go to Singapore and Taiwan, and I imagine still in China now, the people make a lot of offerings to their dead relatives. Yeah, and they spend a lot of money doing it. First, because the idea is if you buy things and you burn them, your relatives in the next life will get them. And it'll, psychologically, it makes you feel better for all the rotten things you did towards them when they were alive. You make offerings to them after they die. Okay. So there, when I first went to Singapore, in the late 80s, what people got was, you always get money that you burn. And the money is from the Bank of Hell. Yeah, that's what it says on the money. And people, this is their business. They print money from the Bank of Hell, and then you can buy it, and then you go to the temple and you burn it, and if your relative was born as a human being, is it going to get in their bank account, as their human bank account? Bank of America doesn't accept transfers from the Bank of Hell. Okay. So it was simple stuff like that, food and that. Now, huge mansions, made out of paper, cars, big computers, all sorts of huge things that you buy and you burn and your relatives will get. Yeah, so they think. So it's a practice that works psychologically to alleviate regret, of not treating people properly when they were alive. But it doesn't really, it benefits the people who create these things. It helps their business, but it doesn't get to your relative. But it gives people some peace of mind, so okay. But the real thing is, why are we taking refuge in that? People often, when a relative dies, they call me and they say, excuse me, what can I do? My aunt, my grandpa, my, brother, whoever it is, sister, pet dog, died. What can I do to help them? Yeah, and this is a difficult question, because I wish they had asked me that when their relative was alive, because it's much easier to help somebody when they're alive. Yes, you can help them after they're dead by making offerings and dedicating for them, doing practices and dedicating for them. But the best way to benefit the people you care about is to encourage them to do virtuous actions and to not encourage them to do negative actions. Okay, so encourage them to make offerings, encourage them to, do a spiritual practice, encourage them to do some spiritual readings, encourage them to do volunteer work, to give to charities, to help refugees, to have a kind attitude towards migrants and people who are refugees. My goodness, why are we hating people who are the the most downtrodden. It doesn't make any sense, does it? Yeah. So I am not talking politics. I am talking ethical concerns. Yeah. When we speak harshly of other people or deny them food, clothing, jobs, education, when we incarcerate them when they haven't done anything wrong, yeah, we are harming them, but most of all, we're harming ourselves. Yeah, creating quite negative karma out of anger. Yeah, isn't it? Anger, and maybe greed, because we think that they're taking our wealth. But you have to bear with me while I go on one of my little discourses here. We live in a country of immigrants, don't we? Yeah, there were the Native Americans, okay, if you're talking about the immigrants who first came to America, yeah, they brought disease and they raped. Yeah, that's how one of the reasons why a lot of the Native Americans died. They brought smallpox, and other diseases. But is that the case now? And when you really look back, almost all of us who are citizens or who are living in this country came from immigrant past, didn't we? Yeah, you may have some Native American blood, but probably immigrant blood too. So, to me, when you really recognize that in your own family history, how can we be cruel to other people who are undergoing that same thing that our ancestors went through, that gave us the opportunities we have to live comfortable lives now and to practice the Dharma? So my point here, like I said, it's not political, it's ethical. But I feel like our ethical standards, our spiritual practice should influence all aspects of our life. Yeah, not just Sunday being holy and then going out and harming others the rest of the week. Okay, but really, putting our values in our entire life. Okay, so yeah, well, some people do these practices, these rituals, with a Dharma motivation. Other people do them with worldly motivations, for the happiness of only this life or to make a living. Yeah? Okay? When these rituals don't bring the effects we wish, it is not because the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas have let us down. It is due to investing hope and expectation in the forces of darkness. So, forces of darkness, it could mean relying on worldly spirits for success. Another force of darkness is all of our wrong conceptions. Okay, beliefs we have that are erroneous, that we've never questioned. Some of them may be things that we learned when we were very little, and we just adopted them into our worldview without questioning them. Yeah, we need to bring these things out and question. Yeah, for example, some of these things that get passed on generation to generation is what is it? The McCoys and the Hatfields. Okay, so I didn't do my Wikipedia study and look it up and exactly what was going on, but they were two Irish Scottish? Somewhere, somewhere on those islands, families, that were in competition, that hated each other, and they passed that hate from one generation to the next, okay? It's the story of Romeo and Juliet's families, that, the families have had a grudge for a long time in the past, so, they taught their children to hate the other family. In Yugoslavia, when that country fell apart, why was there so much bloodshed? Because all the people in the different ethnic or religious groups had learned, how many hundreds of years ago, how many generations ago, your relatives slaughtered my relatives, so now I have to hate you. Huh? Does that make any sense? Yeah, our ancestors were fighting, so therefore I have to stand up for my football team and hate your football team. That's what it's boiling down to, isn't it? Yeah. And I have to hold a grudge. You did nothing to me. I wasn't even alive then. And I only learned about this conflict because my parents and grandparents told me. Why do I have to get involved in something that happened hundreds of years ago? Yeah. Or even something that happened one generation ago. Or even family quarrels that are happening in this generation. Why do we need to get involved? Yeah. And take sides. There's no reason to take sides in this kind of stuff. Okay? So, our wrong conceptions, all the people that we have learned to be prejudiced against. Yeah, could be racial, it could be economic, it could be who knows what. The people with big toes, we just hate those people. The most ridiculous things we think of to put people down, and most of it's not true. Okay, so these are wrong conceptions and these kind of wrong conceptions are our own forces of darkness. Yeah, they obscure our mind. They get us involved in all sorts of negativity. Okay. So the result, the conclusion here, it says, to avoid again creating karma that brings the undesirable results, we should resolve to turn away from forces of darkness and maintain our refuge in the three jewels purely, and to really think about what we believe and not just fall back on what people have told us when we were little. Okay, time's up, but shall we do another verse? When my prayers to the three jewels remain ineffectual, it is the weapon of destructive karma turning upon me for not entrusting myself to the Buddha's way. From now on, I will rely solely on the three jewels. Okay, so we make prayers to the three jewels, we do our practice, but we don't feel like, we're getting anywhere, or we pray to the three jewels, may I realize bodhicitta quickly, and next Thursday rolls around and we still haven't realized bodhicitta, and so we say, well, the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas let me down. Yeah, well, maybe our expectations were wrong. Yeah, is somebody else going to give us bodhicitta? Yeah, can the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas flick a switch in our mind and turn on bodhicitta, turn off self-centeredness? Yeah, sometimes people pray to the Buddha, Dharma, Sangha as if they were external gods and saints, that, or Dharma protectors, praying to Dharma protectors, hoping that they will come down and rescue you from danger. Yeah, because in many of the verses, the Buddha is called a protector. Yeah, so we think, oh, Buddha's going to protect me. I have cancer, Buddha, 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 please get rid of my cancer. Yeah, I don't want to go for treatment, it hurts too much. Please just make it vanish automatically. Look, the Buddha has more compassion for us than we have for ourselves. If the Buddha could have gotten rid of our cancer and our problems, he would have. There's no reason for him not to. But he can't. The force of the Buddha's goodness, the force of our negative karma, are kind of equal. And if we're not open and receptive, if we haven't done purification and created merit, we can make lots of prayers, do lots of practices, but it's not doing much, because what it's like is the radio is broadcasting, but the radio station is broadcasting, but our station is not turned on. The radio station could broadcast all at once, 26 hours a day, and our radio still isn't going to go on because we didn't turn it on. So the same thing, when we make prayers, we have to have some foundation of merit, some foundation of sincerity in our practice, that the Buddhas can, that make us receptive so that the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas can help. Okay, but also to remember that the real way the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas help is by teaching us the Dharma and what to do now so we can prevent such things. Yeah, when, I was saying about helping our relatives while they're alive instead of waiting for them to die, encourage them to be generous, encourage them to have a kind heart. Yeah. And don't, when they start criticizing people, change the topic. Yeah, don't let them get involved in that kind of thing. That's the best way to help them while they're alive. And if they're interested, to bring them to the Dharma Center. Or if they're devoutly, Christian or Islamic or Jewish or whatever they are, encourage them to do whatever purification looks like in their own tradition. Okay? But that's the best way to help. Yeah. And then when they die, you can do prayers and practices. But you also, if you encourage them to do virtue while they're alive, and if you're kind to them, then you won't have so much regret when they die. So you won't feel the need to buy an expensive coffin to make up for what you did. Yeah. I mean, this is what they do at the funeral homes, the decked out coffins, that are super, super expensive. And they appeal, I think, very often to people who feel remorse for how they treated family members. Yeah. In the Jewish tradition, to prevent that, you are not allowed to have an elegant coffin. I think that's great. Everybody's equal. Nobody gets a special coffin. Yeah. I know Netanyahu expects one, but sorry. Yeah, that's not going to happen. Okay, but, to remember that the best way we receive protection is to listen to the teachings and put them in practice in our life. Yeah, to create our own receptivity, to create our own virtue. Because when we encourage ourselves in virtuous attitudes, then when we face difficulty, those virtuous attitudes will help us. Yeah, but when we just fall back to attachment, complaining, and grudge holding when we're in difficulties, then we can call for all the help we want, but it doesn't, do much good because our mind is completely stuck in negativity. Okay, so what I do when I'm in dilemmas is I do a 911 to my teachers, and an emergency call mentally. I don't have a cell phone anyway. They wouldn't respond. But I do a mental 911, and my question, my thing is not, get me out of this jam, I need some money, I need some vitamins, I need, not I. But what do I need to practice now? I'm in this difficulty. What do I need to practice so that I can transform this problem and bring it and create some virtue? What do I need to practice? And then usually what comes in my mind is something that my teachers have taught at one time or another. And then I practice that. And then my mind has transformed. I'm able to deal with whatever problem that there is. Okay. Okay, each verse of the Wheel of Sharp Weapons gives us clues about the specific karma causing different situations. We can then think, I will reflect on my life and acknowledge when I've done that type of negative action. I have probably done that action in previous lives as well. Now I regret such harmful behavior, and I want to make preparations by studying and practicing thought training so that when a similar situation arrives in the future, I will not respond in the same dysfunctional manner. Okay. So instead, I will know how to see the situation in a different light and to transform it into the path. Okay, so that's what each verse in this text is doing. It's giving us tools to use in our lives. So we will stop here. And again, if you have questions, write them down and I'll do them at the end of the next session. Okay, so your break is a little bit shorter because I talk too much. Naughty me, huh? So maybe come back at 11:05. Yeah. Due to this merit, may we soon attain the awakened state of Guru Buddha, that we may be able to liberate all sentient beings from their suffering. May the precious Bodhi mind, not yet born, arise and grow. May that born have no decline, but increase forevermore.